Welcome back to another episode of Sports Wrap with me, Agatha.
And me, Naveen.
And it's business as usual for sports. And by business as usual, we're talking about winning gold medals. That's so exciting. And we have a lot to talk about, but also we're going to be running through our favorite and not so favorite UAAP teams, what's going on, and how the season is going so far.
That's right, Agatha.
We have Carlos Yulo, who won gold in the men's floor exercise of the 2019 World Artistic Gymnastic Championships. And in boxing, we have Nesty Patesio, who won gold as well in the featherweight division of the 2019 AIBA Women's World Boxing Championships.
As usual, Agatha, it's amazing when we have local Filipino athletes aside from basketball or volleyball or the usual sports who make us feel proud and who are victorious. But also what's interesting is that Carlos and Nesty, they are accomplished in sports that aren't exactly popular for their gender, which personally I think is amazing and you feel passionately about as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we can say that Carlos and Nesty are knocking out, pun intended, gender stereotypes, and it's just really wonderful to see. In fact, I feel like gender stereotypes, it happens in sports, and it's something that people don't normally talk about. I mean, you would expect, given these headlines, that for some reason, what comes into your mind when you talk about boxing or a talented boxer is traditionally a male.
Correct.
Or someone masculine in nature, but it shouldn't be that way, and they just show us that it's important for us to support our athletes and that sports knows no gender.
Absolutely. And with Nesty too, I believe that there were some tournaments over the past few years she wasn't able to participate because those tournaments took away women's boxing from their list of events. And first, of course, that's not in line with how we're perceiving gender stereotypes in the modern age. But the fact that she'll be representing the Philippines in women's boxing in Tokyo is a plus not just for our country but also for the sport in general.
Yeah, and I want to mention how I saw Carlos Yulo's routine.
Right.
It's just so amazing. And when it comes to gymnastics, a lot of people, they associate the grace and the movements with traditionally feminine characters, I guess. But then you can really see with Carlos, he's showing the strength and how men can be graceful.
That's true.
And men can succeed in that kind of arena. So
to piggyback on that, men can be softies inside too.
yeah.
But also, go to Rappler. We have some great features to get to know more about our accomplished Filipino athletes. One thing that stood out to me was how Carlos is now fluent in Japanese and is studying his degree in a university in Japan because that's where he's been training under a Japanese mentor who's really helped take his game to the next level. And that's awesome, of course, because now he can bring pride to the Philippines after all his hard work. But it also goes to show that in terms of local resources for developing our athletes in other sports, we still have some catching up to do. And it would be great to see Philippine sports give priority to athletes of other sports in the next few coming years.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, wouldn't it be nice to say that are really homegrown? Although we did mention how it's nice to learn from athletes abroad, and the international stage is a good way to train. But it would also be nice if we could really say that our own athletes, especially athletes that are so talented that they get into the Olympics, get to train with facilities that are available to them locally. Which is something that we hope might happen in the future.
Also, it's great that over the past few years, aside from Carlos and Nesty, we've had different Filipino athletes who we've been proud to say have represented the country in international competitions. Of course, first person that comes to mind is Heidelin Diaz. For me, the late, great Yan Lariba, De La Salle's unbeaten superstar, and also the flag bearer of the Philippines from the Olympics in 2016. Are names that come to mind. But I also remember with those two athletes, there were times when they struggled to receive the proper training and the proper support to help them be at their best possible shape to win medals for us. And like you said earlier about Heidelin, it was sad to see that there were times she had to ask for the support herself. She should just worry about the training, right?
Yes,
Not
exactly.
about the other logistics. and that there were those who even criticized her for asking about, more sponsors and more funds. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, people always think about the physicality of it all, being an athlete,
Right.
but having the mindset, I mean, the right mindset to know that you don't have to worry about anything, about your
Correct.
food, about where you're gonna go, even transportation, you're right, logistics and everything. But what saddens me is that, for example, athletes like Heidelin, who had to really ask for help and almost demand,
Right.
you know, she kind of got flack for that, for wanting support, which is something that shouldn't
Yeah.
be, right?
Yeah. It's crab mentality.
Yeah, and exactly. And I think also one point to take into consideration is that Heidelin is a girl,
Right.
and I think that a lot of people didn't like the fact that she was demanding for certain things, because there's this idea that women who know what they want
Correct.
get called bossy.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's unfortunate.
And it just goes to show also the politics of sports here in the Philippines,
Yeah.
where some sports are given more of a priority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, of course, all we can do is hope that it improves. And based from reports, it looks like there are efforts being taken so that athletes have more resources for the better chance to succeed. And you know what? It would be great because we do have fantastic athletes. Carlos proved that, and Heidelin proved that in the past, and we will continuously have more athletes to prove that. And it's going to be such a treat to watch.
Yes. And speaking of something that's a treat to watch, we have a throwback video of Carlos Yulo, who was 12 at this time. This was back in 2012, and Rappler actually had the chance to talk to him about his hopes and dreams and making it to the SEA Games, hopefully. But it turns out, he actually got that and so much more.
Nung bumalik po ako dito at nag-train. Noong 2011, May 20, sa Pampanga, nanalo po ako.
And speaking of incredible women athletes, it was so exciting to watch the UP Lady Maroons win against the UE Lady Warriors this past week. It was just, I love how they won.
Right, yeah.
And if you guys don't know, they won by half-court shot from Pesky Pesquera.
Such an awesome name. I think it gives Chabio's name a run as the best name in the UAAP.
I know, and I just love the fighting spirit that they have,
Yeah.
and how it was supposed to go on overtime actually,
Right.
but that half-court shot made it in and they won.
Exactly. And speaking of feats in women's sports, the LaSalle Ateneo game in the women's basketball elimination round this past weekend was televised, and it was the first televised women's elimination round basketball game, which is fantastic for women's sports and women's basketball. My only comment there is I believe the NU Lady Bulldogs also deserve some spotlight aside from just the finals and the Final Four. The record speaks for itself.
Yeah, for
They've been
sure.
too good.
Speaking of the Ateneo and LaSalle rivalry,
Yeah.
there was a game that happened this week that you attended.
Yeah.
Is that why you're wearing blue?
This was totally coincidental. It just happened. Never mind. Anyway, speaking of the Ateneo Blue Eagles, they did improve to 10-0 this past weekend by beating their rival, De La Salle. And at this point, we're running out of adjectives to describe the Blue Eagles, who are 10-0 and are on their way to potentially going undefeated. Now, very important thing here, if Ateneo does go undefeated in the elimination round, that means the road to the finals is a stepladder format. We won't have the usual 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3. Something I thought about interesting that took place after the game was that the 7 other UAAP schools, LaSalle, UP, UST, all the way down to NU, they are all chasing Ateneo right now in
Yes.
terms of taking the trophy away from them, the UAP title. Ateneo is chasing history. They're not just competing with the other schools, they're also chasing history. Can you imagine if they secure the three-peat by going undefeated in season 82?
Gosh. I mean, they just really, it's like, that quote where don't compare yourself. It goes. Don't compare yourself to other people.
Right, yeah.
Compare yourself to yourself yesterday or something
Exactly.
like that. I feel like that's what Ateneo's doing.
Absolutely.
Their only competition is themselves. Where they're just, how can we get better? How can we get better? And well, I feel like every episode we're just gonna have to be like, no,
Yeah.
Ateneo's still good. That's it. End of the episode.
Exactly. And after the game versus LaSalle, Tab Baldwin actually said that he felt the Green Archers played more composed in the first half, which was ironic because Ateneo was on top for almost the entirety of it. But speaking of LaSalle also, even with the loss, I was impressed by their performance, and mostly because in the past few seasons, once Ateneo takes that lead over LaSalle, usually what happens is the Green Archers falter and they can't bounce back. This was different. LaSalle was only down by a few possessions in the fourth quarter and really made Ateneo work for the victory, which shows how much they've improved under Coach Jermaine Bird. You know, Caracot, Serrano, Melesio, Baltazar, all these guys are playing extremely well right now, and LaSalle is one of the interesting teams in the second round.
Yeah. And speaking of interesting teams, I have to say, you were mentioning how Ateneo's over here and everyone's trying to catch up to them.
You're right.
But I feel like FEU, LaSalle, UST are kind
UP, of course.
UP are kind of in a knot in the middle.
Yeah.
You know.
And Adamson's a little bit below them too.
Yeah, and it's like you don't really know where they're gonna be. And we were mentioning how they're being not so consistent.
Right.
Especially FEU and LaSalle. Well, sorry.
It's fine. That is actually very accurate. And I think at this point we can say Ateneo is going to get the number 1 seed just because I think at 10-0 it would be too hard to catch them.
Yeah.
But the race for 2, UP is currently holding it. But schools like FEU, UST, LaSalle, the universities you mentioned, they are in the chase, and also Adamson's there. So it's going to be an interesting watch to see how the rest of the elimination round goes because every game matters. Like when UST takes on UP or when UP takes on Adamson again, or that UP LaSalle game, which I'm sure both you and I are looking forward to, every possession is going to matter just because as early as now, the implications in the Final Four race, it's going to be extreme.
Yeah, one thing I want to see though, as a basketball fan, is to see the second place just get. Well, I love UP, you know that. But I want to see like a team that can really, really close the game, you know, with Ateneo. Or really just go head to head with Ateneo is what I mean.
Yeah.
And so far, unfortunately, I don't see that yet in any of the teams. Not taking a jab at my own beloved UP Fighting Maroons, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I want some excitement, but when it comes to the next teams in like the third, fourth, actually second, third, fourth, they're kind of interchangeable. They, you know.
It could change every time there's a game day.
Yeah. And that's what's exciting. Actually, you know what? It's weird that usually people are excited about the finals, you know, and like, but I feel like it's more of like the semifinals that's gonna be exciting, right?
Okay, yeah.
Because the teams are like close.
Yeah.
They can go head to head.
I thought for a second there you were gonna say it's the journey to the finals that's fun because it's about the journey, not the destination.
Yeah, I'm bringing out quotes today. And of course, the sports news doesn't end there. We're gonna be here next week probably to keep talking about what's going on because we have the SEA Games coming up, and that's super exciting.
Great time for Philippine sports.
Yes, definitely. So it has been me, Agatha,
and me, Naveen, and that's a wrap.